in Springfield, Massachusetts in 2007. And from there, started working on missing people and missing animal cases in the New England area. He also went on location to investigate haunted houses in 2014. Todd was featured on the Best Psychic Directory, a website for psychics and mediums. It was created by author and TV detective Bob Olson. Todd soon became one of the most sought-after pet rescuers listed on many missing pet organization pages and is used by canine trackers. In 2017, he moved to Virginia, where he does live readings for the public. Todd is used by police agency and by search and rescuers around the country and continues to give readings from his home on a daily basis. So that's toddsegalpsychic.com. And I think, Tim, welcome to the show. And
yes,
Todd,
Andy.
welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy and Todd. How are you?
Hello. Hi.
Very good.
Nice to see you guys.
Well, I think,
yeah.
So how's the
I've been spoken for a couple of years.
yeah, so Andy, are you in Scotland still?
I'm still in Scotland, but in the Orkney Islands now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's gotten away from it all.
I think in a couple of years you might relocate. I feel so.
One thing I will say to the listeners, this is never rehearsed, and that's why I'm going to tease him later on with a couple of scenarios. Last time he got our dogs correct, I was asking him what our dog was thinking because something wrong with him, and the Todd got it 1,000,000% spot on. And when it comes to relocating now, funnily enough, Tim, we recently just put in a housing application to help us move back at least to the mainland of Scotland because where we are is too remote for different reasons. We're getting old and whatever, and the kids are not getting any younger. So, yeah, no, Todd couldn't have known that unless he read our minds somehow.
Yes.
I see almost a camping area or something of a trailer park type area. I also I see a big river near where you're thinking of relocating. And there's also I don't know, something related to family that will also, there might be some travel this year for you. I see with, I think your wife's side of the family. And you have a daughter?
Yeah, we have a daughter and a son.
Okay. Okay, how old's your daughter?
Oh, sorry, she's 25.
Okay, because I see her with a son one day.
Wow. Just quickly on that note, because when you get things right, it's nice to sort of share that. We currently live near a river. It's actually a big river. Our house looks over it. The caravan park, we've got a static caravan or a trailer in a caravan park in the woods in another part of Scotland. So all this is well after we spoke to you last.
Okay, that's very interesting. Although I hear something about Edinburgh, and yeah, so I also see somewhere down the line, actually more like an apartment building later.
Okay.
And that feels more like the city. So what I was saying before must be where you are now. And then I also saw a larger city. And anyway, so you can ask me questions, but we can talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I was just thinking about give us your news regarding your recent detective work with the police.
Yeah, that was a big case. So there was a fugitive on the run, or he was actually released from prison about a year ago. And then he went on to commit more crimes after prison. So I got a call from a detective. He was also this suspect was on the 10 most wanted list.
Goodness.
So he was a very sought after suspect. Pretty dangerous and in not brutal, dangerous, like violent, but dangerous in his actions. He did a lot of stealing, break-ins, and also, meddled with a lot of drugs and stuff. So the police were working on this case for about a year, and they just had no leads. And when I started this with him, I think it was around November, and so I saw a lot of different places of interest, which actually were confirmed later on that these were places that he traveled to.
Is that right? Wow.
This guy. So it was a hard thing to do. Originally, he escaped out of prison from Texas, he was on the run in Texas. And then he had a lot of associations in other states, a lot of motivation to try to get out of there. I felt he was trying to get out of there, but he ended up back, and they had no leads whatsoever. And I said, I got Austin, Texas, as where I'm going. And he says, well, there's nothing for us to believe that he's there. And so I ended up, I saw like a motel, and I described the part of town the motel was in.
Uh-huh.
The other detective that was working with this guy also said, I know where he's describing. It was up on a hill near this highway, as best I could describe it. And so
Sounds
they went
like
to
Gates Hotel.
yeah, well, a lot of those there. And by the way, I don't know Austin at all. And so I get a call back from him not long after they went there, and he says they had a verified sighting of him just last week at that hotel, and he frequents there often. So that got us started. And then I had to give him details about the places where I felt the suspect was hanging out. And, everything comes as, well, I get words, I get descriptions, I get, the feel of activities of what this guy is doing. He was panhandling a bit, and then he always seems to, find these women who take care of him. And he was doing that. I saw older women. So everything was kind of confirmed. I think it took us about over time, because they patrolled the Austin area, but the Austin area is massive. Not only that, full of homeless people. So you had homeless everywhere. You had, it was like finding a needle in a haystack. So I was, okay, I'm going to this motel, and then I'm going to this camping area where he was also seen. It was a long chase, and it went through Christmas, and I had to go out of town during Christmas, so I couldn't really talk to him much, but I did every chance I could, or to text him. And I just put everything I had in this, because I had a feeling that I was going to do something on this. And then I got back from traveling New Year's Eve, and I remember I was just exhausted. And it's just in there, I got a text from him, we have him. And and then I got the details. I think I called him right after that. And so he said that last clue I said was a Super 8 motel, which was where he was at. And then I asked him before, I said, does he ride a motorcycle? And he says, no, he doesn't. I said, well, I see him riding a motorcycle. It was hard too, because he was doing drug runs, you know, through Texas to different places. And I saw him. I said, what's your helmet law? He says, there's no helmet law. Okay, I saw him without a helmet driving this bike. And that's where he was getting drugs and bringing them back. So anyway, he had to get some backup to his room, or at least to arrest him. And they came in, and sure enough, the suspect opened the door, and right in front of the door, in front of the motel, was the motorcycle, his. So he had a motorcycle that was confirmed, and it was quite a story. I mean, I wasn't surprised, but I was happy the way it turned out. And I think that this detective was open enough so that I had his confidence to help me. When I have somebody's confidence, it does help me. And anyway, so guy's in custody, and there, by the way, there was just a massive pile of drugs in his room.
Really?
And they had to call the local authorities to come sort that one out, because that was a different jurisdiction, you know. So there was lots of drugs, and anyway. So that was a big case, and we did a podcast a few weeks ago. I don't know, not too long ago, and it's on my website, so people can listen to the podcast. But it's yeah, it doesn't get better than that as far as finding somebody, and he's never really been to a psychic, so I told him personal things about himself along the way. I mean, it always mixes in. You know, I was telling him things about his reconstructed, I think, shoulder and his knee and this and that. I'm like, do you like catch a lot of crooks, or you know, have you been in stock car racing? He says, no, I used to play football. He says, so every part of my body has been just mangled. And, you know, so that was pretty interesting, talking about his health and stuff like that. But anyway.
Yes, interesting. Wow. I have a health problem that's emerged because I was taking antibiotics for 6 weeks. I ended up with sorry to share this, but I ended up with diarrhea, which is often a side effect of prolonged antibiotic use.
Yeah.
And that cleared up, but I have a very sore colon, and it was actually blood was coming as well when I went to the John, and that blood has been off and on, but it stopped for a few days now, and I'm taking oil of oregano, and this product called Inflamamend, which I got from the local health store, and I find that has maybe helped because the bleeding has stopped. Yeah.
Have you been to a doctor at all, or no?
No, not yet.
I mean, it'd probably be a good idea. I think they'd just they'd rule out a couple of things, but I think that as a backup, I think it takes a while to settle. I for some reason. Now, when's your birthday?
November 13th.
Oh, okay, all right, because I heard Gemini, and that would be around the time of May to June is when I feel things would be a little better. Whatever you had taxed your liver pretty bad. So,
Yeah. They say that your stool color will indicate things. So if it's dark, that's a good sign because that shows that the bile is being produced in proper quantities. But if it's pale, not a good sign. It means your liver is not producing enough bile.
it will take some time. I'm kind of looking at things that stick out that might help. Basic over-the-counter things, things like yogurt or things that have bacteria would help.
Probiotics.
But you'd have to get good ones, and sometimes I'm not sure how it is there, but sometimes getting them as a prescription could help.
Oh, is that right?
I think they're a little better. At least I can get that for my animals through the vet. but for people, I think it's the same way. There's probiotics and there's things that could actually relieve it or help it. But it takes, I've heard of this. Sometimes it can take 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
In your case, if you think, let's see, February, March, 3 months. And that's part of it. I think that I don't really see. You had a foot thing or a foot infection or something?
Yeah, that's recovered now.
Okay.
It's Christmas time.
And that's why they gave you the antibiotics?
That's right. Yes, it was very serious. It went into the bone.
So some of those after effects would be not just the antibiotics, but the other stuff, the die-off, could also be escalating some of your symptoms, or it did for a while. I think green vegetables would be very helpful. Even to boil them and drink the water.
Like broccoli and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, just little bits. Because it really just kind of tweaked your system,
Nice.
But
you can't, well, without being funny, and I don't mean to be, I had a similar problem a few years back, about 4 years. And I thought it was diet and all that, but I went to the doctors. It turned out I had a polyp.
Oh.
And he had to do an examination and said, look, you need a scan. And it turned out to be a polyp.
Oh.
They removed that polyp and they've had the problem since.
Goodness.
It's different. I mean, I think Tim's talking about hemorrhage, is it colitis? Basically, your bowel hemorrhages after antibiotics. But it could be that it's already a problem you had, and the antibiotics have just set it off. So it's always worth going to the doctor first.
We also, everything's kind of reflective of something else, So when I studied Japanese medicine, different parts of your body correlate to other things. So let's say like intestinal can be either lungs or heart. Extreme trauma or stress can bring on bad intestinal things. Also, it depends. Our emotions kind of feed issues of our body too. So if there's lots of stress, and I know you've been through a lot of stress, I think that this year will be good for you, though, from July onward.
Really? Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
think that the one thing that I do see is actually I see two jobs for you. One could be the teaching. One other role could be administrative, but also I see a almost like a handy person job out where you live. Because I was getting the outdoors for some reason.
Mm.
And it could be that you could offer to help people, older people, that kind of thing. Although somewhere down the line, I don't know why, I see you helping children or something like that. So challenged people. So I
Yeah,
don't really,
there's a lot of job ads for kids with ADHD or autism, some sort of disorder. So yeah, there's a lot of tutoring centers that look for tutors that will help with this type of child.
The other thing about books is audiobook keeps coming to me.
Oh,
Audiobooks. I'm actually working on a book right now.
is that right?
Yeah, I know you probably are like, oh no. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, honestly. But and I know it's so hard because I know other writers and publishing issues and all that kind of stuff. But with yours, I hear audiobook. I also feel like people would have to pay for the file or something. So it might be kind of thinking out of the box, but not like a printed book, but something that's an audiobook and that you pay for or subscribe to some kind of, it feels like a way to access books, and you get a subscription to it and you join. And so you might want to look at other options for books, because I hear number 4. I hear book number 4 or something.
Book number 4.
So how many have you written so far?
Oh, I've written and published several. There's over 10 that have been published. Some of them are novels, some of them are nonfiction. But
Okay.
I did write 3 books on COVID and the whole pandemic, and one of those was published in the Philippines. The book, Shakespeare's Codex, All the Worlds Staged and We Are Merely Played, is what is being promoted through this show, this regular show. And all the topics in that book we address show by show. And sometimes we have a special guest like you, so we don't really address those topics. But yeah, the publisher I'm working with hopes to get the book out this year, but he has some problems with his processor. The processors keep pulling the plug on him.
Oh yeah.
And so he has to find a new processor, and he's been looking now for 2 or 3 months for a new processor and hasn't found one.
Huh.
Like PayPal, that sort of thing.
So I don't know what the number 4 refers to. It could be a book, but it could also mean April as well, because April is the 4th month.
Oh.
And then your partner's overseas still?
Yes.
Because I feel something about July.
Mm-hmm.
Or seeing her in July.
Is that right? Wow.
She's got a nephew
Oh,
or some boy she wants to travel with. That's weird. Like a relative.
oh,
I don't know what that's about, but anyway, keep your eye on July.
interesting.
What's her age?
She's 37.
Okay. Big year for her. Might be a change of moving. But she has to go somewhere. She's got to go to Taiwan, or she got to go somewhere else
Oh,
first.
Japan. She's hoping to go to Japan.
Oh, okay. And
there's a job there that pays well, apparently.
Okay.
It's Japanese.
But other than that, I'd kind of stick to, for jobs and money, it seems like a bunch of stuff going on, but I think that, see if there's any other available jobs at the educational place where you're at. I'd also check your neighborhood and area too. I think the neighborhood and stuff could fill in weekends, I guess, something like that. But I actually feel it would be easy money, and you could, it would help.
Yeah, everything helps.
Are you in the city or country?
No, I'm in the suburbs. Basically, north west Toronto.
Okay. That's kind of what I visualized.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, what else, Andy?
Right. What about there's this girl then. Her name's Lucy Letby. I hope you've not heard of her, because it wouldn't be fair if you had.
No.
If you haven't heard of her, that's fine. She's a nurse. Just wondering if you've got any feelings if she's guilty or not guilty. Now,
Okay.
I'll show you the picture of her on the screen, and then I'll tell you about it.
And what country is this in that she's...
UK.
Okay.
That's the right one. So that's when she was a nurse.
Okay. What are they accusing her of?
Yeah, I was going to say that's one picture. So her name's Lucy Letby. I'm going to show you another one because it's relevant, because I think you can find out people by looking at them. This is after a little while in custody.
Mm-hmm.
Same person, but she's obviously drained there a little bit. So she's been charged with a huge crime: 7 murders of babies.
Good Lord.
And 7 attempted murders. Is there any chance in the world she could be guilty, or the other way around, innocent?
Well, I'm looking.
The country's split on it at the moment.
It's strange because the first thought that came to me, though, was somebody who has access to the health facility. But here's the problem. I mean, do they have a lot of evidence against her?
It was mainly circumstantial. As in, she was on duty when the babies died, but so was everybody else on duty. She's had doctors and trust managers being lazy and blaming her for small things. But the evidence on her side.
Yeah, I don't think it's her.
She's been framed. I'm picking up she's getting framed.
Because I saw different hands at work. I saw hands that were not hers. I saw somebody Oh, well, it just feels like, could I say if they're male or female? Possibly female. I felt darker skin, possibly. Bigger stature. The hands were bigger. So when I look at this, I don't, she's been in trouble before for other stuff. Medications is one thing I get. I also feel that she's a bit of a target because she's had run-ins with the law.
Oh dear.
Yeah, not 100% sure on that one, but what is clear though, if she's done anything wrong, it's been mild medical negligence rather than murder.
Yeah,
And she's the type of person that would speak out and and say, look, it's not me, it's them. But she's being framed basically. We think now the Canadian neonatal expert in the world that everybody believes in. I can't think of his name at this minute. He's came forward. He's a Chinese man. He came forward and said, look, there's no evidence that she was ever a murderer. So they've got a team of 5 or 6 experts around the world, and now the UK criminal investigations people that look at miscarriage of justice, they have to look at it and decide if there's a retrial. I just thought I'd put that in because there's a lot of people that might be listening that I've sent this to these groups, the Lucy Letby groups, because I don't know. I've always from the beginning I thought no, and then it's difficult when someone gets convicted for the rest of their life.
Well,
it's very difficult to know who's who.
I guess something around September for a trial.
That would work because they said about 4 or 5 months.
No, is that right? Well,
felt around September. There's some witness or some alibis or something to her testimony, which is kind of important. So there's people who are kind of speaking up for her. The problem is that is this a hate crime? Is this something that was motivated? The thing is, I do feel that things have been kind of hard for her, emotionally, personally, and that's why I feel like she's vulnerable.
Dear, that's a shame.
I get Pisces around her for some reason, which
Hang
is
on,
the end of the month.
Let me see if I can get her. I did see it.
Something about Pisces.
A minute ago, birth date.
And that could mean that maybe the trial's set next month or at the end of this month, something like that. It's very delayed, though.
Yeah, no, she's actually had the trial because she's been convicted of all these murders, but they're looking for a retrial or acquittal. She's actually January the 4th, 1990, date of birth. This is the Capricorn.
So maybe something is set in motion in February or March about a retrial.
Yes, going to court.
She could. The only thing that I kind of worry about, though, is I hear the people or the lawyers that are representing her talking about. Well, they're giving some serious language as to the degree of the murder degrees in this. And the only thing I'm worried about is they don't think there will be an acquittal. So I'm reading two things here, is that possibly this was done by somebody else, but on the other hand, her own representatives don't feel too positive about her outcome.
So it comes down to perhaps criminal negligence causing death as a third-degree murder charge, rather than second or first degree, something like that.
Something like that. And then if I'm looking, she's 37 or 38. I heard 38. I don't know, 37, 38. I also feel that, boy, this could go on for a couple of years.
Oh, that's true as well.
Well, if there's multiple counts of homicide involved, then that's another issue as well, because it's not just one count. So that would add.
It's each case.
Yes.
Case.
Yeah.
Each case, and one case is brought in big focus by somebody. So one of these cases is they've got some big people in on it. I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe they have city council or somebody from the higher ups on this.
Yeah, they've got the top lawyer in the country for miscarriages of justice, and it says here in the last couple of days, it said an international panel of medical experts have thrust Lucy Letby back into the spotlight. At a press conference Thursday convened by our legal team, the experts cast doubt over the former nurse's conviction. Letby was given 15 whole life sentences for murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 more. Don't worry about the other one. I don't understand that one because that's 14. Where's the other one? But anyway, speaking at the press conference in London, retired neonatologist Dr. Shu Lee told the assembled reporters in all cases, death or injury were due to natural causes or just at the very worst, bad medical care by multiple people. And they said, no, we take Dr. Lee's word for it, well, in part because he's the author of a key paper on air embolisms, one of the methods that Letby was accused of using to kill these babies, which formed a key part of the prosecution's evidence at the trial. I could read it, but
there were other problems besides her. So I don't feel it was the problem is that I think she's responsible for her duties at that facility, but I think there were other factors involved with these deaths, not just her.
Sure. Could there be a vaccine injury issue that is involved?
God, going through each one is okay. Well, not to get too graphic, but some of the cases that I feel I get hemorrhage, blood clots. I get something of some kind of brain injury.
Yeah, that would fit. All those symptoms would fit the vaccine injury scenario. And it has been the case that things like shaking baby syndrome have been blamed on guardians like parents, when in fact it was a vaccine-induced injury that caused brain hemorrhage.
Some of these things, so are we talking about infants or?
Yes, sudden infant death syndrome type of events.
Because I feel like some of these people were at 2 or 3 facilities before this happened.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. So in my eyes, you have to take each case. You have to see where it goes to. but I don't feel that, like I said, I saw other hands. I saw other people handling the situation, not just her. It's like I see other doctors. So I'm not looking at personnel in the same place. I'm feeling other places, other situations. I also get prescriptions for drugs that were very questionable and toxic.
Dear.
So there's a whole bunch of factors with this, but honestly, this lady, Lucy, is her name.
Yeah.
It's kind of like everybody's trying to find somebody to blame on this. And that's what makes this really hard. Because she almost has to go through every case, but she was already convicted, you said.
Yeah, she's already convicted and in prison for it.
Well,
I know it sounds a bit weird me saying this, but in my little head, because it's only my little head that thinks, because you can talk or see how animals are feeling. Now, I was thinking that in a similar way, someone who's really done wrong to babies, they must technically be an animal of a human nature. So you might have picked up some kind of vibration, whether she was evil or not, and that's kind of why I thought treating her initially like an animal, but I think there's overwhelming evidence. Well, it's been in the news anyway. It's not factual, but it's been in the news that there's multiple people at fault, but not one person actually did all the murders. That's what they're thinking.
a lot of it was circumstances. And also one child being treated somewhere and then being treated somewhere else. And it's a hard thing. It's not like they all landed right there and it all happened right there. There were other cases of health problems. Hold on one sec. I'm going to sorry, I got this pop up on my computer. The thing that I get about her, I know, I see the picture of her kind of smiling, then the one where she's not in the prison shot. The one where she's not is what I'm getting the image of her. I do feel some anger issues. I also get, for a 37-year-old, quite a lot of emotional issues going on with her. And also not being able to speak on her behalf or defense, because I think that attorneys have told her not to. So I'm kind of questioning her legal counsel as well. And if it's with the right legal counsel,
She managed to sack the previous counsel that maybe they made mistakes. I mean, the new lawyer now said, look, we can't blame the legal team because this is not what we're here for now. The court wouldn't listen anyway. We're going to have to, what happened, and we're going to need to move on to try and get her acquitted. So that's where that stands now. And
is it a male or female that's in charge now?
It's a male.
Okay. And it was a female before?
I'm not sure, to be fair. It was a team of them.
Okay. Well, there's going to be a lot of work on it. I think they may come up with some new information on the case in August of this year.
Mm.
It just feels like a long-term thing.
Todd, I've got a lawsuit with the producer of my film, who also I mistakenly chose her as the person to buy my house, and she has, in a predatory way, just pounced on all my assets in a predatory fashion, like a vulture, and so I had to sue her.
Where's she from?
Iran.
Okay. Yeah, you got problems with her.
No, do I ever?
Has she done this kind of thing before?
I would think that probably she's made a career of stealing assets from other people, and that's why she's enriched herself enough to buy quite palatial estate, manor, house in Squamish,
She,
British Columbia.
so she's a liability, basically a career, let's sue this person, let's sue that person type person.
Now, she doesn't sue people. She tries to destroy their reputation when she is in the process of taking advantage of them, and accuses them
Yeah,
of
so it's
owing her money when in fact she's embezzled or stolen money from them.
yeah, so it's kind of this it's a illegal game. And yeah, there's some people who do that as a career. I think she does it as a career. I think she might get stopped though.
Oh, that's good. I'm hoping that this case will actually expose her criminal actions and will in fact lead to a prison sentence and then deportation. That is what I'm hoping for.
Where does she live now?
I really don't know, to be honest. She has this condo that she basically stole from my daughter, and so she's got the condo in Toronto, but she's got that palatial manor house out in Squamish, BC. So I don't know where she is.
I get West Coast or something like
So
that.
she's probably out in Squamish, BC.
Yeah, I get West. Wow. Yeah, so I think I think it'd probably be a good thing to do. I don't know why. I just get a really bad feeling from her.
Yeah, well, the reason you get a bad feeling from her is the mother, Sandra Davis, has already identified that she is attached to an entity called the Heart of Death, which means that all of the death entities that exist have coalesced into her.
Wow.
So that's a lot of negative energy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, between the last two questions here, you know.
I mean, to clarify, in case there's anyone in our audience that wishes to know about these things, I'm interested in metaphysics. Clearly, Todd is, otherwise he wouldn't be a psychic detective. But there are these metaphysical entities, and we think of death as something natural, like a natural part of life. It isn't. It's an imposition upon us that shouldn't have ever occurred. It should never have occurred. And death is an actual entity. And that's why the metaphysical poet John Donne always personified death and capitalized it in his poetry, like "Death be not proud." And Shakespeare commonly, the author commonly capitalized death because these poets were metaphysicians and they could actually see these entities. They could actually feel them and identify them. William Blake was another one that had that capacity. He realized that there were spirits presiding over human affairs. In fact, I think one of his quotes was, "We can do nothing of our own. Everything is conducted by spirits."
Well,
I promise the listeners, and I know I haven't given out the numbers, but I'll give out the numbers anyway. And if they want a call in the next 5 minutes, they can. I did promise people maybe they've got a quick question for Todd. So I'll just give out the numbers anyway. There's no harm done.
do they call you on the show?
You press the link button. They get through the same way by dialing a number.
Oh, okay.
So the UK number is 0800 640 3111. That's 0800 640 3111. And from the USA, it's 888 633 0347. 888 633 0347.
Although
if you
today,
go somewhere else in the world,
Mhm.
you can get all the numbers on freedomtalkradioonline.com, and then you just go to the live shows tab, and all the numbers are there. So if you've got a question for Todd Seagal Psychic, please do call.
I was going to say today's a busy day because in the States we have Super Bowl Sunday, so it's a football Sunday.
I was going to say, if they do want to take part in the show in the future, if they just email freedomtalkradio2013@gmail.com, and we can set up a call-in show, that would also be nice.
Yeah, sure.
Before, and you've been spot on as usual.
Well, it's interesting what Tim was saying about spirits and you kind of interfering in our lives, and I've thought of, I've been working on this book that I'm working on. It took a few tries because I didn't like the way it sounded a couple of times. The third time it seems to work better, and I was trying not to focus on myself. I was trying to focus on the work itself, what it's like. I'm talking about spirits and talking about cases and people that I've worked with. And as I was writing this, I'm just blown away because it's been so long. It's been so many years and so many cases. And like, I'll talk about one case and then there's more cases that pop up. So it's been a real, it's been pretty intense. But the one thing that's really trying to explain to the public what it's like to do this work, or what I see, or how do we see things, because it's not just me, it's you too. And so trying to understand this work, I don't have all the answers, and it is kind of hard for me, but I have really contemplated these questions about life, death, spirit world. How do I see the future? Is there, a parallel time? And there is. In fact, I'll be even bold enough to say that our future has already happened to us. We're just living in this period of time, but our future has already happened. So I've kind of like really thought about what all of this means, and what it means to be able to see like the future and stuff like that. And, you
That
know,
makes very good sense, Todd, because, you know, this deja vu phenomenon would indicate that the future has happened and we're seeing it again in our
real time.
Yeah. When in fact, in the other dimension, it's already happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, Tim, in the future, you win the lottery and I see you on your yacht, having a pina colada, and yeah, I see Andy is well, actually he runs for president, so yeah, lot in your future.
Be him. Now, there was a little theory. I don't know what you think about this. When I was on holiday, just been to Turkey, I met a lovely lady called Linda, English woman living in Scotland. And she's reading the book, and I've forgotten the name now. I wish I'd remembered. But she said she thinks this doctor who wrote this book was correct about how we got here. You know, it wasn't the Big Bang and all that. She thinks, the book thinks, the theory is we all got here from some kind of faraway planet, because basically we're the aliens, not the aliens.
Originally, yeah.
The aliens.
Yeah, originally, yes, I believe so. I mean, they're starting to come out with evidence, and a lot of people have made TV shows on it about each time new discoveries take place, they cancel out the discoveries that have already been documented with our history. You know, we look at the Ice Age and we look at life on the planet as being this primitive sort of planet. No, actually, there were people here that were extremely advanced, and I think we're part of their gene pool. And I think the gene pool is actually set on a timer and it accelerates. So we're not learning things just by trial and error. We are learning things because we have a time clock in our genetics, in our DNA, that's going to be, we're going to have to leave the planet one day. It won't be sustainable. And that's what's been happening, I feel, for thousands and thousands of years. But there is evidence to say that advanced people were on this earth a long time ago. And then I feel there was a reset somewhere around, time, I don't know, 3000 AD or something like that. But where we forgot all of the lessons and the technology from our ancestors. And so people, I guess what I'm trying to say is, was our past history more primitive, or was our past history more sophisticated? And I feel that it's been primitive for a while, and I mean, I find our time right now is kind of very elementary, very basic. I won't say barbaric, but pretty close to it. But a long time ago, technology was way more advanced than we are now. But we're growing towards that point eventually. And so I hope I didn't ramble on about that, but I've thought a lot about that lately, is people of this planet, no, we're not originally from here.
Yeah, I've just found, well, it must be this one, because I remember Silver. Dr. Alice Silver is probably the book that the lady was talking about, and it says we were not from Earth. I think it says, hang on, humans are not from Earth. A scientific alternative is the book name.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's, our planet's organic. It's been through changes. Planets and atmospheres change. We're sitting here blaming ourselves on the climate change. No, that's not exactly true. The Earth has rotated differently more recently, so the axis changes. There's so much in place. Solar flares, stuff like that. I think that's caused a lot of health issues for people. And the magnetic energy of the Earth changes over time too. So nothing's really the same. And, unfortunately, this planet will not be here forever, but others will develop and we'll figure out ways to get there. And yeah, so that's an interesting book. I'm just looking at that.
Yeah, humans are not from Earth for scientific evaluation of the evidence. Now, this lady, by the way, she's staying in touch, and she's over 70 years of age, and she's a bit like an older version of Tim as a female. But, you talk the 9/11, you talk all the stuff you talk about, Tim. And I just met her at random on holiday. I really think that meeting her was meant to be in a spiritual sense, because Joanne's now got another friend, and yeah, it helps. It helps.
Well, it looks like a very interesting book.
And as soon as I go somewhere, you think, well, let's not talk Tim, let's not talk Andy anymore. We're just gonna be normal, 2.4 kids and a whatever you talk about, Oh, but no, people are more open-minded these days about things. I mean, I could even mention vaccine damages and nobody would get scared, because what's thrown that one for vaccine damages, and I believe our children are vaccine damaged, leading to problems, with their learning when they're younger.
Hey, Andy, I wonder if you could mute my feed for a minute. I'll be right back. I just have to do something real quick. Is that okay?
I can't, but you probably can.
Okay. Oh, well, I guess I could. But what I'll do is, I was just going to have you and Tim talk for a sec. And
okay.
That's okay. Okay, I guess I'll just hide for now. I'll be right there, okay?
No worries. Yes, the vaccine damage thing, you talk about that and people think you're mad, but nowadays they definitely are more open. And what makes the vaccine damage story more possible is they screwed up on COVID-19, didn't they? And that's why people believe us now when you talk about damage.
Yeah, well, the mRNA vaccine for COVID is questioned by many health professionals and by people like Catherine Austin Fitz, who has, investigated many cases involving vaccine injury, and she established a link between the insurance companies and the payouts that they have to make for various disease-related injuries, and the vaccines of the how can I put this? The military pharmaceutical industrial complex. The pharmaceutical industry produces these vaccines, which she argues are producing an array of vaccine injuries that cover for the other diseases that people have gotten from various, chemicals that we ingest through the food supply and so on, and to cover up the real cause of these diseases, the vaccines are introduced, which act as a kind of bioweapon. They're fake vaccines, if you like. I mean, clearly the mRNA vaccine is an example of something that's not really a vaccine. It is gene therapy. What it's purported to be is gene therapy, but it actually does program the DNA to be changed. And one of the features of this
Okay,
is
I'm back.
deletes the God gene, which means that the spiritual component within us is deleted. And so we do not have the ability to contemplate higher spiritual realities such as God once that gene is eviscerated from our genetics, from our genome.
Well,
It was developed by DARPA for that purpose. Because with people around the world having an abiding belief in God and in our divine qualities, our divine nature, they would protest against anything that would inveigh against the inalienable rights of the human, the sovereignty of us as humans. They would naturally resist anything of that kind in defense of their spiritual component.
I'm looking for Andy's. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know where my picture went to, but unless it just popped off.
We can see a picture.
Oh, you can see a picture. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of there's so much stuff happening in regards to questions not even just about the vaccine, from the pandemic, but medications. And I have just heard an overload of issues coming from clients and people they know, and I hope there's some exposure to what's going on out there. That's just my thought.
Yeah, well, Dr. Martin and Catherine Austin Fitz are two quite credible sources that have questioned this whole thing. And one of the things that Dr. Martin came to realize and to share was the fact that patent was illegally taken out on nature. You can't patent nature, but the NIH, National Institute of Health, and the CDC, Center for Disease Control, took out a patent on SARS-CoV-2, which was developed through gain of function research at the Wuhan lab in China with NIH funding. And that funding went to China through a subgrant agency known as EcoHealth. Why would they do that unless they were trying to cover up the source of funding for the gain of function research? And eventually this virus, which was developed through gain of function research, was patented. And the patent should not have been issued because you can't issue a patent on nature. A virus is a part of nature. It's and they bribed officials in order to get the patent issued. And this patent has been in existence for a number of years, going back to 2003. And so the idea of it being a novel coronavirus is not the case. It is not novel. It's not something that is novel or new at all. That's what he discovered. And then he discovered that the same entities, NIH and CDC, patented the PCR test to detect the presence of the virus, and then also patented the vaccine, which was posed as the antidote or the solution. So they were in control of the whole operation, problem, reaction, solution, based on his patent research. That's what he specializes in, Dr. David Martin.
Well, I remember we were talking about this. I don't know if it's been like a couple of years or not. I think it's been over 2 years. I mean, we were speaking to each other back during the pandemic. Was that correct?
Yes, that's right. We talked about this issue
before. And I mean, I still see the bad side effects from all this stuff, and but when you try to talk about the truth, and nobody wants to get behind the truth, I think actually bringing it up now is very good, because people forget so easily, you know. I can remember, I mean, even the political climate, I remember all the way back to the 1970s what was going on in this country. I remember in the 1990s they were warning us about viruses coming, as if they already knew that they were coming, you know?
Well, that's precisely what was happening. It was predictive programming, because they knew full well what they were going to do in the future, and they were preparing the public for the coming pandemic.
I mean, if people understood that this was pretty much, well, I don't want to say completely an experiment. It was kind of warfare, you know, but it was a big experiment, and it was on purpose.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting that the Nuremberg trial determined at the end the Nuremberg Code, and the Nuremberg Code stipulated that it would be illegal and considered a crime against humanity to, introduce experimental medicine and to use that experimental medicine upon the public without their informed consent. Well, none of us got that informed consent because we didn't know what was in the vaccines. We were never properly informed. So therefore, it's a medical experiment conducted on a population without its properly informed consent. So these people should be prosecuted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity for perpetrating an offense under the Nuremberg Code. Mm-hmm. That is clear.
I mean, I can tell you, I know in my head people who are responsible for all this. I won't say a word, you know. I think that, the so-called conspiracy theorists who aren't the conspiracy theorists know. And I was asked a question the other day by, I don't know, I think it was one of my followers on Facebook, and she said, do you ever look at people and do you ever know that somebody's really guilty of a crime? Especially when you're watching like the news. And I said, oh yeah, all the time. I just, it's scary what I feel when I'm, I don't watch the news for that purpose actually, but if occasionally I see a picture online or on the news, it's scary. It is really scary. And what's to say that they won't pull this off again? I think this was just the beginning.
Well, I think you're right. And Catherine Austin Fitz believes that there's more to come, and so does Dr. Martin. In fact, Dr. Martin recently said that the social assistance programs and pensions and so forth, pensions for the elderly, are all in jeopardy because of the state of the treasury. The national treasury of our countries is taxed to the limit, and there's not enough money to provide for these programs.
Yeah.
And so they, according to Dr. Martin, they have opted for the genocide option.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people don't like what's going on in our country right now, but I can tell you one thing is that we're doing some house cleaning, some serious house cleaning, and there's a lot of people who are aware of this, and it's going to take a little while, but it needs to be done. You know, we have you understand the term the deep state, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, this has been going on for a long time. There seems to be a relevance to this period of time right now in regards to it. It feels very financially motivated. It also has to do with technology and stuff like that. By the way, our technology is when we were talking about life on this planet ages ago, our technology is very basic. You know, we think we're technically advanced, but we're a long way from where we will be one day.
And where we were presumably eons ago.
Mm. Yeah, and you know, I was asked another question recently too, and they said, "Do you think aliens are running our planet?" I mean, good question. I do feel that people, I do feel people from other worlds do and circulate on our planet actually. And whether they're in high positions, well, I'll tell you, a lot of them don't seem human, so I would lean towards that as a possibility. um, but
It's just for a joke here.
yeah,
Isn't that what AI means? Alien intelligence.
yeah. No, you're right. I mean, there's
Apparently, artificial intelligence is going
the
to take over humans with the robots very soon.
You know what Tim was saying actually, it kind of like coincides with this too, is that the technology is being geared towards the stuff that you're talking about, Tim. The eradication, the renewal, the filtering out. I mean, that's what it speaks to in my head about a big radical change going on in our society and what they have to do in order to keep things going their way.
Right. So I agree. So the eugenics program and the effort to change our DNA is to shape us into something that's more malleable and controllable for their agenda, which is ultimate and total control.
Yeah. And, you know, it's hard to talk to anybody today, especially in this country, about anything political going on because, you know, there's such division and the division's intentional.
No, of course, it's the age-old divide and conquer.
Yeah. But people don't see it. People don't see it. I mean, I can't even watch the media or television. It's just got such a brainwashing quality to it. And I listen to it, and there's no facts. Everything's bias. Everything's what they think. And it's meant to divide people. And same with the social order and the way our society is behaving and the way they're doing things. It's made to it's just to divide us and to conquer.
Righty.
Well, aliens might have already landed on Earth, says the Pentagon. Well, they might have landed at the Pentagon. We never know.
I got low battery and I got my thing plugged in, but it's not. Apparently, there's something.
No, I was going to say, Tim, should we close the show? Because we've got a lot covered, haven't we? An hour and a half.
Okay, so if you do get callers or people that write to you, I could always answer them next time if you want.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Maybe we do it every month if you don't mind, or we just we don't have to be a definite every month. But
by the way, I think you'll have a better year this year than you've had. Or I think things are going in a better direction for you.
We've got better technology now.
I'm gonna plug this in. That plug doesn't work.
Oh, well, that could be a problem if your plug doesn't work.
Yeah, if anybody wants to donate a little coffee, $1, £1, freedomtalkradioonline.com. Go to the live shows. That's where you'll find the phone numbers. And there's a little button on the right-hand side, buy me a coffee. Every little helps, as our supermarket says. And Todd Seagal, psychic,